Okay, so I'm sure that this wonderful book took some time for you to develop. So did writing always come easy to you?
No, I dreaded writing. In fact, being here in the squad, RCC, I remember I took my first writing class with the Puente English program. I think Puente was English 51A or 58. It was basically the lowest English class. It was one notch above ESL. If you went any lower than that class, you were in ESL. And I remember being in that class and getting my first paperback and it being all full of red and just being ripped apart. Professor Steve Garcia ripped my paper apart. And I got a D. And the next paper I got a C, and I was getting D's and C's in English. And here I am thinking I speak English, compared to people in my family, I speak English pretty well. And no, but I had horrible English, and I had a really hard time writing. In fact, I did well at RCC, but the classes that I did the worst in were English.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Now through writing your book, did you ever experience what they call writer's block?
absolutely.
And when you did, what did you do? How long did it last? Or
Well,
tell
like
us
I
about
said,
that.
writing is a difficult thing, and I think like anything else, it takes a lot of discipline. And I had a really hard time writing at the beginning, and I would have ideas, and I would do new research, and I would go out there and I would analyze and do interviews, and I'd come back. Well, how do we put it all together? And it was really hard to do, but eventually, I began to find my discipline. One of my great mentors, he passed away. A man who wrote over 10 books and did documentaries, Professor Saul Landa. He told me something, Alfonso, he said, writing is really hard, but if you want to be good at writing, it has to be the first thing you do every day. So what did I do to write this book? I would get up literally like a full-time job. I had a semester off to finish the book. I had been writing it in pieces and pieces, but my university gave me what they call sabbatical or,
Okay.
leave to work on the book. And that semester in January, in New York, in the cold, in Brooklyn, it was snowing, and I used to get up at 7 in the morning, eat my breakfast, be out by 8, and I had this thing where I had to be working by 9. Working by 9 a.m., I had to be writing, I had my computer open, working on the book. And I would literally work from 9 to 12 every morning. And those first few hours of working on the book, that's where your mind is the freshest. That's when your thoughts are the best. So that was my technique, to really work early in the morning to work on the book. And it was the best thing I ever did, because when you start your day writing, you literally wake up with something to say, and your job is to get it down. Now this is different, because when I was a student, when I was here at RCC, I remember I worked at a French restaurant, I worked here on campus, and then I taught ESL in San Bernardino. So I had 3 jobs. And then I had Mechan, I had Puente, and I had like all these clubs. And I would get home at 11 o'clock at night, and I would start writing at midnight. And I would write from midnight till like 3, 4 in the morning. That's a horrible way to write. The way to write, if you're going to write a book, something that's going to be shared, you write first thing in the morning. And granted, I had the privilege to do that as a professor, but that has been my process. And that was the way I dealt with things like writer's block. That's the way I dealt with things like having too many things in the day. People say, well, I have time to write. Well, you got to make time to write.
Okay, so then you're saying that priorities like this you had to make this a priority.
Absolutely.
And you identified a schedule and you had to stick to it daily, day in and day out.
Oh, absolutely. My schedule was really, I told you 9 to 12 because I didn't want to scare nobody. But to finish the book, that semester I worked from 9 to 5. And then I would work out from like 6 to 8, eat, come home, and I'd be back on it from like 9 to midnight. So really I was working around the clock to finish the book. But most people don't have to write like that. I think it was really hard for me, and I had to do that to get the book the way I wanted it to. And even then, writing is such a craft. It's never perfect. Like the same way a tattoo artist is never happy with his tattoo. A true intellectual or writer is never happy with their book. I can look at this book and I'm really proud of it, and it's doing really well, and it's, all these wonderful things about it. But I can still look at this book and be like, I could have done that different. I could have made that a little bit better. And I think that's what drives me. At the end of the day, that's driving the second book. At the end of the day, that's going to drive all of my writing. And in this world, when I'm gone, people are going to be able to get my books and say, hey, this is what this man, Alfonso Gonzalez, had to say about the world. And I think that's a very special feeling, something I really enjoy doing.
That's wonderful. Yes, that's great that you're mentioning that, because a lot of our students struggle with writing, and they think that their first draft, that's what they know, and they need to understand, right? How many times did you revise your document? Your
Well,
text.
I can't even count because I revised. I worked in it chapter per chapter, so I don't have an exact answer for that. But I can tell you the book proposal had over 25 drafts. And the book
Wow.
proposal was only like 7 to 10 pages long. Each chapter went through numerous drafts, at least 10 drafts each chapter. And this book took a long time to write. It's something that I it's like a sculpture. You have to chip away at it little by little. Little by little, you'll get tired and you'll come back and you chip away at some more. And eventually, it's a beautiful thing. And eventually, it could be shown in like a sculpture. Once it's there for generations.
Right. Well, that's wonderful. It's great.